So before you begin the Dreamweaver tutorial, I think you need to do a little bit of planning. First of all, what is the Dreamweaver tutorial? Well, you can take a look at the PDF handout, and it will look similar to this. I may be changing it a little bit, but it is long, first of all. In fact, if you go down through the whole thing, all this step by step by step by step by step by step, it is like 72 pages long, with many screenshots and illustrations and different chunks, parts 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't remember how many parts. These are all separate videos. These videos will be in next week's section. So how long is it going to take you to do that? Well, both by using this tutorial on paper tutorial, which if you're on campus, I may give you the option of picking up a copy of it from me, because I think it's really useful to have it on paper and sitting beside you. But if you have to use a PDF, well, just use the PDF. And then I have all the videos, video by video by video, that you go through at the same time. And I would say it's going to take you at least a few to several hours. Hopefully not more than 5, 7, 9 hours or something. But it's going to take some time. Now, of course, you could do it all at once in one giant sitting and you'd be bleary-eyed. But I would say, you do 1, 2, maybe at the most 3 hours at a time, in 2, 3, maybe 4 sessions. You'll have more than enough time. Okay, good. So what's the idea with the planning? Honestly, you'll see next week there'll be very little to do except for the Dreamweaver tutorial. But here's what I mean about what the problem is with the planning. The planning has to do with where are you going to get the program, okay? You can't do this very easily without Dreamweaver. In fact, part of the idea is I want you to have some experience with Dreamweaver, which is the most common of these types of programs, the most popular of these kinds of programs. And at the same time, you're not just learning Dreamweaver, you're learning some more stuff, some other ideas about HTML and CSS in particular. In fact, some you may even want to take and use in your resume eventually. Okay, and some more theory in there too. So you need to have Dreamweaver. Now, if you're on campus, then I would suggest you just go to a lab. You go to the main lab over in Feinberg would be fine to use, and they do have a full Adobe suite, and I'm sure they're socially distant, and you just work there. If you're not on campus, or you just don't want to go to the lab, well, I suppose some of you might have your own copy of Dreamweaver. And then finally, you have 2 other options. But just before I continue with those, the versions from one place to another may be slightly different. I'm going to be doing the tutorial in the newest version, because that's just, I think, where my computer is right now. Yeah, I'll either be doing it in CC 2000 or 2001. But those, I believe, are roughly identical, nearly the same. If you have your own copy, I assume it's probably pretty updated to one of those also. The labs, I believe, are at 2000 right now, CC 2000, the Adobe CC 2000 level. And as is the virtual lab. But you have your own version that's slightly different. It's true the Mac version is slightly different than the PC version, and so on. So there's that whole issue. Prepare yourself perhaps for some little things that are being a little bit different because of the version you happen to have, because you may be getting it from a different place than I did. Okay, but one way or the other, you go to a lab, okay, good. You have your own copy, okay, good. Hopefully it's pretty well updated. All right. But what if you want to get your own copy, but frankly, don't go spend the money unless you already did it, unless you already had it for somehow. All right. So what can you do? Well, one thing you can do is you can go to the free Adobe 7-day trial, which would allow you to download the full version of the software, and it's fully functional. And it's up to date, most up-to-date version, and would allow you to use it for 7 days. But obviously, if you did this, if you're going to go this route, you'd want to prepare for your 7 days. You'd want to say, okay, I know I can start on this day, and that's going to give me, I can work certainly for these 3 or 4 days, so I should be fine. If something goes wrong, I still have a couple more. But if you get the 7 days, and then you wait for 3 or 4 days, before you do anything, and then you get partway into it, and then you realize your 7 days have expired, that could leave you in a bit of a bind, right? So there's that issue. But yeah, sure, you could still go and then go to a lab or something also, if you have that option. So that's one thing to think about, is a 7-day trial. They would give it to you on your own computer. I haven't used this, but I know students who have, and they haven't had any problems. And there's another option, which I'm a little hesitant to suggest, but I do think you may want to consider it. Okay, you could go to the virtual lab. All right, which would be, and there's more instructions about this virtual or remote lab at this documentation here from the college, which you should probably look through. They give you a lot of warnings. Well, let's take a look and see. They talk about where you sign up, and when you do, what's actually happening is with the virtual lab is you are remotely running a computer in one of these other places, either our Sable or Feinberg or whatever, and you see different places have different software available, right? So you connect with that link, and it shows you how to do it, and then when you click on it, you'll be automatically logged in using your SUNY Plattsburgh information and so on to the screen of the remote computer. Here's the issue, that it takes a while to get used to this. It's awkward, because you are like running another computer, kind of like as a little puppet show, using your controls on another computer. And you can't use your drive, for instance. You can't use your own hard drive, for instance. Everything you're using is on that computer. So if you want to get a file over there, you've got to download it in that computer, using the controls of that computer to do it. Let me just show you a bit of an example here. Okay, so here I've logged in, and this is after I do my regular login, you use your regular ID and stuff like that. This is the screen I'm presented with. If you've already used the connections there sometime, you will be presented with some kind of screen like this. And then you can, but if you haven't used any yet, you probably won't have anything up here. You probably just have these connections down here. So you go to one of the connections, and you make sure it has the software you want, which is Adobe CC, or Adobe Suite, or Adobe Creative Suite, which is really the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to go to this one, and it's going to connect me to that computer using something they call guacamole, which I don't know what the heck that means, but anyway. So you're relying on the speed of your internet connection plus the speed of the internet connection and the speed of that computer wherever you're going to. So everything is slower. Okay, you've got to save very regularly. Okay, here I am. So here's the issue. You see how I'm in a browser, right? But I'm on a desktop of another computer. Yes, I don't know what's going on over there. I don't want that. So I'm actually seeing the notifications that are coming from that one, right? Okay, so in order to get my files down here, let's see, I've got some files I've been working on. I've got to use a browser to either use my Google Docs, for instance, or something. Or make a folder here. If I bring up the My Computer window, I have to be careful. Any commands I would normally do. Normally I would use a command on my own computer. This is the My Computer window on my computer. I don't want that one. I have to go down here, right, to try to make my way to a file explorer. This is the file explorer for that computer, and that is different. Okay, so if I look at this PC, I see I have a thaw space here. I could use the thaw space, and then I could go get a browser, right? So now I am opening up a browser within a browser. This is the browser on that computer, and I have to keep myself straight because I'm not using the browser that I'm in when I'm looking at that computer. Okay, good. So now I would have to go log into Moodle here, and then I have to download those files to this computer here, all right, making a folder and stuff perhaps in the thaw space. Alternatively, you could be using your Google Drive. Honestly, that won't work quite so seamlessly with trying to do web stuff, though. I think you're going to need to make the folder over here and save it as you go. And then regularly, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to make sure you save those files back, all right, either into your email or into your Google Drive regularly. Now, there's also, you'll see if you look at the documentation, they describe that after like an hour or so, it may want to kick you out or may give you a warning about that. So it says connection timeout. Connections to remote computers will time out, disconnect after 1 hour, which may result in loss of work. That's pretty scary sounding. So you got to remind yourself to save very regularly. And then if you do get kicked out, you have to come back in again and keep on working. Every time though, you have to make sure you get the files to this computer. So you can start to see how it's a little bit awkward, but you can get, I'm looking at the start menu of that computer as opposed to the start menu of my own computer, right? All right, and I could go open up Dreamweaver 2000, and it would open up eventually. It would make me want to, I still have to do the login to the Adobe Creative Cloud, I believe. It's going to force me to do that. Maybe, maybe not. And this is where we would be starting with the tutorial. But I have to remember I'm running Dreamweaver through a browser on another computer. So, you know, it was a lot of work for the computer people here to set this up. They did this when we all went crashing into remote instruction about a year ago, right? And for what it is, it's amazing. But to actually use it, although some students I know have, you have to really stay organized and save your work and make sure to get your work off that computer regularly too. Because you're not going to be able to go find that computer, even if you're on campus. It's not going to work for you. Okay, so finally, yeah, those are your options to consider. So it takes a little bit of planning as you're moving ahead. But if you get towards the end of this week and you got a little extra time, I would say jump into Dreamweaver right away, even though the videos are next week, because you're going to want to have the time to spend to do it.